Hi guys, this is going to be an instructional video for the week of January 18th and your expectations as remote learners. First and foremost, you are expected to be on my Schoology page working on the daily assignments at the designated class time. You will be marked absent otherwise. So please make sure you are accessing my Schoology course at the designated time, Monday through Thursday. So looking at my Schoology page, we are going to scroll down and we are going to be in ELA 6 week 19, January 18th through the 21st. When you click on that, you are going to see the weekly overview and what your expectations are on each individual day, okay? So scrolling all the way down, you are going to see a folder specifically for Monday Step 1 vocabulary. And then there is going to be a second folder that contains the Springboard packet that you will be working on throughout the entire week. So this is something that you are going to come to each day and continue working. So Monday, you are working through Springboard 3.1. Tuesday, Springboard 3.4, Wednesday, Springboard 3.5, and Thursday, Springboard 3.6. So looking at the first step for Monday, it is vocabulary. When you click on this folder, it is going to take you to Google Slides. So you will have to click on the My Document tab and then the Edit button in order to begin your vocabulary. It is going to look like this. You will have 8 words for the week, and you are expected to look up the definition as well as use the word in a sentence. You are more than welcome to use dictionary.com to complete this task. After you are done with this task on Monday, please make sure that you are submitting it through Schoology. Now looking at the Springboard packet that we are going to be working on throughout the week, step 2. When you click on it, it's going to let you know that it is Springboard 3.1 and 3.4 through 3.6. When you click on that, you're going to have to give it a second to load the PDF, and you want to click on Open Assignment with Cami. We are going to be utilizing Cami for this Springboard packet, so please make sure you wait and click on that button. When you open the assignment, it is going to look like this. You're going to need to give it a few moments to load. Once the document has finished loading, you should see all of the highlighting and annotations that I made to help walk you through this process. So we are going to start with the learning focus. This unit is focusing on voice and what that means when you are writing. So you're going to read over the learning focus. You'll notice that certain things have been highlighted for you that you want to pay special attention to. The next page is where we begin 3.1, which is your task for Monday. The first question, how do internal and external factors influence one's self-perception? This is an opinion-based question. You will not find the answer to this in the learning focus. So remember that self-perception is how you see yourself, what you think about yourself as a person. So how do internal factors, meaning things inside yourself, and external factors, meaning things outside of yourself, like your friends, your teachers, and your coaches, influence how you see yourself as a person? Question 2 says, how does voice relate to audience and purpose? This is specifically talked about on the previous page, 196, the learning focus. And the last question here, predict what you think the unit is about. Use the words or phrases that stood out to you when you read the unit overview and the learning focus. So what do you think we are going to be covering within this specific unit? That is going to end Monday's portion of the springboard. On Tuesday, we are moving on to 3.4, and you are going to be reading an excerpt from Bad Boy by Walter Dean Myers. Unfortunately, I do not have the audio of this excerpt, so you are just going to have to read it on your own. So the first portion of it is your main character talking about how he did in school, moving from 5th grade all the way into 6th grade. And you'll see about halfway through, you move into Mr. Erwin Lasher, which is his 6th grade teacher. When you finish the story, you're going to have a couple of charts that you need to fill out. This first chart is talking about ways that Walter got into trouble and actions that helped Walter stay out of trouble. Now, you do need to fill in every single box in order to receive full credit. However, you will notice that they incorporated a quote from the actual story in this box. I am not requiring you to find a quote from the story. You can simply summarize what Walter did to get in trouble. The middle column, why Walter acts that way, and adjectives to describe Walter. At the bottom, it asks you to write a topic sentence stating the changes that occurred in Walter's self-perception and behavior from the beginning of 5th grade to the end of 6th grade. So essentially, what change took place from 5th grade to 6th grade. And this should be an OP sentence, meaning you should be starting with a word like although, even though, if, or because. The second chart that you are looking at here is no longer talking about Walter, but it is talking about his 2 teachers, Mrs. Conway, who he had in 5th grade, and Mr. Erwin Lasher, who he had in 6th grade. And it goes into some different concepts on the teachers. What adjectives would that teacher use to describe Walter? Why? How did Walter behave in their class? And what advice about Walter would they give to the next teacher? Again, every box needs to be filled in for full credit. Continuing on here with 3.4, you have a writing prompt. Write a note from either Mrs. Conway or Mr. Lasher to the teacher who will have Walter in class next year. Using the voice and diction of Mrs. Conway or Mr. Lasher, describe Walter in a way that will help the next teacher allow Walter to excel. So based on who you choose, either Mrs. Conway or Mr. Lasher, you want to match their voice, meaning you want to be able to show the audience whether that teacher really liked Walter or whether they disliked Walter. This note should be between 6 to 8 sentences for full credit. That is going to be the end of 3.4. So moving on to 3.5, which is Wednesday's activity. You are going to notice that we are continuing on with the Bad Boy story. So they provide a topic sentence for you here. At the beginning of 5th grade, Walter is impulsive and violent, but by the end of 6th grade, he has found excitement and a sense of self through reading. The detail that they give, Walter rolls marbles across the desk and blurts out answers to questions. And their commentary, Walter always wants to be active and doesn't realize how upsetting his actions are to the teacher. So this is an example that you are going to now replicate using the OP statement you came up with in the last lesson. So you are simply copying your OP statement here. Again, this should begin with words like although, even though, if, or because. And then you are going to have to come up with 3 details and 3 pieces of commentary to support your OP statement. So if you are talking about how much Walter struggled, you might give specific examples as to how he got in trouble here. If you are talking about Walter excelling, you again are going to give specific examples on how he began to change and do really well in school. Number 3 says, write a concluding sentence. In it, you may restate the main idea or comment on the ideas in the paragraph. So you are going to pretend that you have finished your entire writing piece and you are writing a conclusion sentence. Remember, conclusion words are things like all in all, in conclusion, obviously, overall. So you are going to put a concluding sentence here. Number 4 says, using the details and commentary you have outlined, draft a body paragraph. Add transitions and further commentary if necessary. This should be between 6 to 8 sentences. So you are going to take one of your details and one of your commentary pieces, and you are going to formulate a body paragraph surrounding that detail. So if you are talking about a specific incident that occurred with Walter at school, you're going to explain the incident, explain the teacher's reaction, and kind of explain why it occurred overall. Remember that this is a body paragraph, so you should have transitions like first, then, after. And that will be the end of 3.5. Moving on to 3.6, which will be your Thursday activity. Again, continuing on with the overall story of Bad Boy. It says, in reading the excerpts from Bad Boy, you have had an opportunity to look inside the mind of Walter Dean Myers, one of today's most popular writers for young people. Write notes about what you know about Mr. Myers' life. Remember that Bad Boy is a memoir, meaning that it is based on Walter Dean Myers as a child, okay? So based on what you know about him as a child, and now that he is a famous writer, what can you tell me about Walter Dean Myers? Number 2 says, imagine that you are Walter Dean Myers. You are credited with many accomplishments, but you know that you did not achieve your successes without the help of others. Write a personal letter thanking either Mrs. Conway or Mr. Irwin Lasher. It might help to examine a raft prior to writing your initial draft. So a raft is an acronym that stands for role, audience, format, and topic. Your role is the persona of grown-up Walter Dean Myers. Your audience is his elementary school teacher, either Mrs. Conway or Mr. Lasher. The format is a thank you letter, and the topic is the way the teacher influenced Walter as a young man and in his life. As a pre-writing activity, you are going to list out a couple of ways that Mrs. Conway helped Walter and a couple of ways that Mr. Irwin Lasher helped Walter. Based on what you come up with, you are then going to choose the teacher to whom you want to write the letter. So you are simply going to put their name on the line and why you chose them. So I am choosing Mr. Irwin Lasher because, or I am choosing Mrs. Conway because. The next little chart that you're going to look at is when writing a letter to a former teacher, things you want to do and things you do not want to do. Keep in mind that this is a formal letter. You want to sound appreciative. You do not want to sound rude. You want to sound professional. So filling in the do and do not chart. Here you have several tips that can help you as you are drafting your letter. I did put a little note, you will draft your letter on the next page. We will not edit and create a final copy for this activity. So you can see the format of the letter here. You put the date, dear, whatever teacher you chose, and then you are going to format your actual letter where you are showing appreciation to whichever teacher you chose. A closing should be a word like sincerely. And then again, remember at the bottom, you are pretending to be Walter Dean Myers. So you should be signing his name, okay? Again, we're working on voice here. You want to make it sound as much like Walter Dean Myers as you possibly can. And that will end your assignment for Thursday. If you guys have any questions for me, please reach out and send me an email and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Remember that you need to be live during the designated time of the class. Thank you very much.